Nintendo Switch Online has a huge library of games featured from the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, and also the Game Boy Advance. And we all know about the big Nintendo first-party titles like Super Mario 64, A Link to the Past, and Super Mario Bros. 3, but what about the hidden gems? Today I'm going to run through some of my favourite hidden gems from Nintendo Switch Online, and I'm going to share them with you. But if you enjoyed this video or find it useful, hit that subscribe button down below for even more Nintendo content here on Power Up Direct. Well, first of all, we've got Vice Project Doom. This one is on the Nintendo Entertainment System. This one is a criminally overlooked action game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it blends multiple genres into a surprisingly cohesive and cinematic experience. You play as Detective Hart, unravelling a sci-fi conspiracy involving alien bioweapons and corporate corruption. The game features side-scrolling action levels reminiscent of Ninja Gaiden, intense top-down driving sequences like Spy Hunter, and even first-person rail shooter stages. It's got cutscenes, tight controls and varied gameplay, and it makes it feel like 3 games in one, and it's all held together by a gritty cyber noir narrative. So it was released later in the Nintendo Entertainment System's lifecycle in 1991, and it was definitely overshadowed by the arrival of the Super Nintendo, but it definitely deserves a second look via Nintendo Switch Online. Well, next up we've got S.C.A.T or S.C.A.T. This one's on the Nintendo Entertainment System also. This one is a high-octane sci-fi shoot-'em-up released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990, and it was developed by Natsume, and it's one of the most polished and underappreciated games on the system. So set in a dystopian future where Earth is under siege by alien forces, you play as one of 2 cybernetically enhanced commandos, either Arnold or Sigourney, and it's a clear nod to Terminator and Aliens, tasked with saving humanity from annihilation. Despite its quality and polish, S.C.A.T or S.C.A.T definitely slipped under the radar, partly due to its unfortunate title and limited marketing, but today is rightly seen as one of the Nintendo Entertainment System's best late-era action games. It's fast-paced, it's fair, and it's full of personality. Well, next up I'm going to move to the Game Boy, so we've got Mega Man 5. So this one is one of the most ambitious and unique entries of the entire Mega Man series, and it stands out as a hidden gem in the Game Boy library. Originally released in 1994, it broke away from the series' typical formula of reusing bosses and stages from the Nintendo Entertainment System games. Instead, Mega Man 5 introduced an entirely original storyline, bosses and mechanics, a rarity for the handheld titles, which were often seen as spin-offs or remixes. Visually, the game pushes the Game Boy's hardware to its limits, with detailed sprites and smooth animation, and the music is top tier with original tracks that revive the series' iconic Nintendo Entertainment System themes. Because it was released so late in the Game Boy's lifecycle, it did have a limited print run, and Mega Man 5 is often overlooked, but is easily one of the finest and most creative 8-bit Mega Man experiences. Next up, also on the Game Boy, we've got Gargoyle's Quest. This one is a dark fantasy action RPG hybrid for the Game Boy, released by Capcom in 1990. It's a spin-off of the Ghouls and Goblins series, but instead of playing a heroic knight, you control Firebrand, a red demon who was one of the most feared enemies in the original series. In this game, however, Firebrand is the protagonist on a mission to save the Ghoul realm from a mysterious threat known as the Destroyers. So rather than just being a spin-off, Gargoyle's Quest established its own lore and identity, eventually leading to a more elaborate sequel, Gargoyle's Quest 2, and also the cult classic Demon's Crest on the Super Nintendo. It's a challenging, stylish and inventive game that feels ahead of its time, and easily ranks as one of the most rewarding hidden gems available on Nintendo Switch Online. Well, next up we move to the Super Nintendo, and first of all we've got Joe and Mac 2, Lost in the Tropics. So this one is a colourful and quirky side-scrolling action platformer released for the Super Nintendo in 1994. It's the 3rd game in the Joe and Mac series, despite its 2 in the title, and it refines many elements from its predecessors whilst also adding a surprising amount of depth for a game that looks like a cartoonish caveman romp. You play as either Joe or Mac, two club-swinging prehistoric dudes on a mission to recover a stolen crown from a rival caveman clan. The game sticks to classic run and jump mechanics, but also enhances them with more responsive controls and better hit detection than the original. Where Lost in the Tropics really surprises is in its RPG-like features. You collect coins to buy items, you give gifts to potential wives, and even raise a child, adding a layer of humour and progression that sets it apart from more linear platformers. So this one is often overshadowed by its more famous Super Nintendo platformers, but it's a delightful hidden gem that stands out for a mix of action, humour, and unexpected simulation elements, and it's definitely worth checking out on Nintendo Switch Online. Next up for the Super Nintendo, we've got Wild Guns. This one is a stylish, fast-paced shooting gallery game for the Super Nintendo, released by Natsume in 1994. It blends Wild West aesthetics with sci-fi flair, creating a unique steampunk western setting filled with robot gunslingers, futuristic gadgets, and explosive action. You play as either Clint or Annie, two sharpshooting bounty hunters out for revenge, blasting their way through waves of enemies in saloon towns, train yards, and robot-infested deserts. Gameplay-wise, Wild Guns is a third-person shooting gallery. You move your character left and right along the bottom of the screen while aiming a crosshair and firing into the background. Dodging enemy fire is crucial as you've got to jump, duck and roll whilst maintaining a steady offence. Power-ups, screen-clearing bombs and bonus weapons keep the action dynamic. The challenge is real, but the game is fair, tightly designed and deeply satisfying, especially in two-player co-op. Well, finally for the Super Nintendo we've got Panel de Pon. So Panel de Pon is a beautifully crafted, fast-paced puzzle game originally released in Japan for the Super Famicom in 1995. While Western players may recognise it as Tetris Attack, the Japanese version stands apart with its own distinct fantasy theme, cast of characters and visual flair. At its core, it's a match 3 tile swapping puzzle game, but its depth, speed and combo mechanics make it one of the most addictive and skill-based puzzle titles on the Super Nintendo. So what makes Panel de Pon special is its fluid control and also charming aesthetic. The pastel visuals, whimsical character animations and vibrant music create a joyful atmosphere that contrasts with its intense competitive potential. So while Tetris Attack reskinned the game with Yoshi's Island characters for the Western release, the original Panel de Pon retains a unique identity and remains a beloved classic in Japan. Well, next up we're going to the Sega Genesis or the Sega Megadrive, and we've got Ristar. So Ristar is a vibrant and inventive platformer released by Sega in 1995. So developed by the Sonic team, and it was overshadowed by the late stage hype of the 16-bit era and the arrival of the Sega Saturn, but in retrospect it is one of the finest platformers on the system. Rather than relying on speed like Sonic, Ristar offers a more methodical and creative approach to action platforming, centred around the hero's stretchy and also grab-based mechanics. So you play as Ristar, a living star sent to save the Valdi system from the evil tyrant Greedy. Instead of jumping on enemies, Ristar reaches out with his long extendable arms to grab and slam foes into submission. He also uses his arms to swing from poles, climb ladders, grab ledges, and also launch himself across gaps, making the game feel really dynamic and also full of motion, but in a way that rewards rhythm and timing over raw speed. Despite its glowing critical reception, Ristar did not get the spotlight it deserved at release, but today is widely regarded as a hidden gem and a showcase of the late Genesis brilliance. This one is an essential play for anyone who loves clever level design, expressive animation, and creative mechanics, and it's definitely a hidden gem on the Nintendo Switch Online. Next up we got Kururin. This one is for the Game Boy Advance, so this one is a delightful and deceptively challenging puzzle action game for the Game Boy Advance, originally released in 2001, although only in Japan and Europe. This offbeat gem, you control a slowly rotating stick called the Herolin, and it navigates through a narrow maze-like course without touching the walls. The twist? Well, the stick is always spinning, you have to carefully time your movement and rotation to avoid crashing. What makes Kururin stand out is its original gameplay concept, paired with the charming visuals and a catchy, upbeat soundtrack. Its colourful presentation and quirky aesthetic make it approachable, but underneath the cute exterior lies a game that demands real skill and patience, especially in the later levels. Well, next up we've got another one for the Game Boy Advance. This one is Golden Sun. So Golden Sun is a beloved turn-based RPG for the Game Boy Advance, developed by Camelot Software Planning and released in 2001. Often hailed as one of the finest original RPGs on a handheld console, it blended classic JRPG mechanics with innovative systems, rich world building, and some of the most impressive visuals and music ever achieved on the Game Boy Advance. Golden Sun's turn-based battle system is traditional on the surface, but enriched by its unique Djinn system. Players collect elemental creatures called Djinn, and they can be equipped to change a character's stats, unlock new classes, unleash powerful summons in battle. Beyond combat, Synergy is also used in exploration and puzzles, giving dungeons a Zelda-like feel as you manipulate the environment to progress. Golden Sun was a critical success and gained a loyal fanbase, spawning a direct sequel, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, and later a DS follow-up. Now it's available on Nintendo Switch Online's Game Boy Advance library, and it remains one of the crown jewels of handheld RPGs, and a must-play for fans of classic role-playing adventures. Well, next we're moving to the Nintendo 64, and we've got Jet Force Gemini. So this one is an ambitious, action-packed third-person shooter for the Nintendo 64, developed by Rare and released in 1999. Known for pushing the technical and artistic limits of the N64, it combines sci-fi combat, exploration and platforming into a sprawling space opera. Well, the game follows three playable characters, Juno, Vela, and their dog Lupus, and members of the intergalactic peacekeeping force Jet Force Gemini as they battle an evil insectoid empire led by the grotesque tyrant Mizar. So one of the most distinctive aspects of the game is the requirement to rescue every tribal, that is a tiny bear-like creature, to access the final boss. It was definitely controversial at the time, but it added a layer of completionist challenge. Jet Force Gemini was critically acclaimed for its scope and originality, although its difficulty and design complexity made it less accessible than other Rare hits like Banjo-Kazooie or GoldenEye. Well, talking about other Rare hits, the final game I want to bring to you today is Banjo-Kazooie, and that is also for the Nintendo 64. Banjo-Kazooie is a critically acclaimed 3D platformer for the Nintendo 64, developed by Rare and released in 1998. It's widely regarded as one of the best games of its generation, known for its colourful world, tight platforming, clever puzzles, and endearing characters. Often overshadowed by Super Mario 64 and other first-party titles on the Nintendo 64, Banjo-Kazooie took the 3D platforming formula and expanded on it with greater variety, personality, and a whole load of charm. You play as Banjo, a laid-back bear, and his wisecracking bird companion Kazooie, who lives in his backpack. Together, they set out on a quest to rescue Banjo's sister, Tooty, from the evil witch Gruntilda, who plans to steal Tooty's beauty through a magical machine. Well, the duo explores 9 large open-ended worlds, each filled with collectibles like jigsaw pieces, musical notes, and the game encourages exploration, experimentation, curiosity, and it rewards players for solving environmental puzzles, completing mini-games, and discovering secrets. So what set Banjo-Kazooie apart was the dynamic duo's moveset, which expands throughout the game. Kazooie enables Banjo to run faster, jump higher, shoot eggs, and fly with red feathers, abilities that are often crucial for navigating the terrain and defeating enemies, and the game's controls, they're smooth, they're intuitive, making platforming feel satisfying, and loads of fun too. Well, Banjo-Kazooie is definitely a must-play gem of the N64 era, and a shining example of Rare's golden age, offering a timeless blend of adventure, humour, and also heart as well. Well, let me know what you think in the comments and share your hidden gems for Nintendo Switch Online. But that is it for this video today, looking at the hidden gems for Nintendo Switch Online. And as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for even more Nintendo content here on Power Up Direct. Thanks again, and I'll see you real soon.